Now, you're very welcome back. The Snooker World Championship started on Saturday. They are off to a lively start on a few different fronts. Very happy to welcome back to the show Shabnam Younus-Jewell of BBC. She hosts the Framed podcast, which sounds like a good true crime title, but it's very much snooker. Shabnam, great to have you back in the show. Hello.
Hello there.
We'll get on to what is just a good old-fashioned beef involving Ronnie O'Sullivan. But last night, images shown around the world, I would think. We had Animal Rising at Aintree on Saturday, and now we had Stop Oil at the Crucible. So for anyone who didn't see what happened, you might just describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. Two protesters managed to get to the tables last night. It was about 7:20, just after play had started in the evening at the Crucible. And the male protester managed to jump onto the table, pulled out a packet of what looked like orange powder at the time, and just managed to spill it all over the table. There's pictures around. He's in a cloud of orange smoke. A female on the other side, there's a two-table setup at the moment. She tried to do what looks like the same thing, but the referee managed to hold her back. They were both taken out, and a man and a woman have been arrested. Play had to be stopped for about 40 minutes, and unfortunately one of the tables featuring Robert Milkins and Joe Perry couldn't go ahead. The match couldn't go ahead because it was going to take too long to get the table back in the condition needed. It needed completely reclothing afterwards, recovering. The other match between Mark Allen and Fan Zhengji did go ahead. Mark Allen won that match. And afterwards, he talked to us a little bit about what it was like to be out there. He was a little bit in shock at first because he didn't know what was going on. But he said once he got back inside and calmed down a little bit, he was actually fine to go out and play. But the two players who'd been at the table that was damaged didn't feel like they could come out and play. So the decision was taken to just not have that match continue last night. It was just a real bizarre, real surreal evening for everybody involved, everybody here at the Crucible.
Yeah, the group are Just Stop Oil. So they are the same crowd who threw soup on a Van Gogh at the National Gallery. They blocked the M25. They tied themselves to goalposts at a Premier League game. By the way, it's not just a general climate change issue. Their specific point is they want to halt new licences for the exploration of oil in the UK. Apparently 100 new oil and gas projects will be licensed in 2025. So that is very much what they're trying to draw attention to. And I suppose, much like the animal rights group at the weekend, they've managed to do it. I mean, it's everywhere. Sport is a very attractive vehicle for eyeballs, and therefore it will be a target.
Yeah, absolutely. They claimed responsibility for it straight afterwards. And I don't think they targeted snooker as such as a sport that they're accusing of anything. It was just the fact that the World Championship is being watched right now by so many people that they knew it'd be a great place to make their point, really, and just to get seen. It's watched by millions of people around the world. It's one of the biggest sporting events on right now. So I think that was the reason for it. And well, they managed to do that, really, because it's been on every single newspaper, I think, on the back pages, front pages this morning. And that image is just so vivid that it will stick in people's minds. And people are talking about it, I suppose, which is what they wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't celebrate their artistic sensibilities too much given their destruction of the Van Gogh. But the choice of orange powder was very nice. So it is a vivid image, which does stick in the mind. So job done. I heard Barry Hearn this morning. He was livid, as you might expect, and I would think we'll see a beefing up of security. To talk about the competition at large, the headline coming in, I suppose, is that Ronnie O'Sullivan is going for his what would be a record-breaking 8th world title. He's hoping to break Stephen Hendry's record. He has Hossein Vafaei in the second round on Friday. This is great. We'll play some audio in a moment, Shabnam. This is a good old-fashioned beef that we don't have in sport too often.
Yeah, it's one that everybody is looking forward to, actually, this match when they go head-to-head. It surprised people a little bit, the fact that there is such a beef between these two players. But all has been revealed now when we spoke to Hossein Vafaei after he won his first round match and found out that he was going to play Ronnie O'Sullivan. And it goes back to last year. They played against each other in a qualifying match for the German Masters. And apparently when Vafaei beat O'Sullivan, Vafaei felt that he was disrespected in that match by O'Sullivan, that he was knocking balls about a little bit. And after that, he feels like he's not his hero anymore. He used to be. O'Sullivan recently heard some of the comments that Vafaei made, which included a suggestion that O'Sullivan should retire, actually, that he isn't good for the game anymore. And O'Sullivan said something like, he shouldn't rattle my cage, something like that. And since then, Vafaei has come out with lots more comments about O'Sullivan. One of the most prominent was that he's a nice person in his sleep.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Do you know,
so,
we have the audio, because sometimes innocuous comments look worse in headlines, but actually when you listen to Vafaei, as we'll do here, this is him speaking after he won his first round match against Ding Junhui in very impressive fashion. He's 28 years of age, he's world number 23, Vafaei, but as you'll hear here, this isn't a guy saying a line or two which are then subsequently blown up into something bigger than they might have intended. This is a full-on, Ronnie O'Sullivan, I really don't like you. We'll have a listen.
I think Ronnie O'Sullivan is such a legend. He's such a good player when he's on the table. And I think he's such a nice person when he's sleeping, you know. He's just such a nice person when he's asleep. So yeah, it's such a... you know what I mean. So, yeah, it's going to be a great match for the people. I think every sport needs to have some people like us and show something at least, you know.
So you're looking forward to the match?
Yeah, of course. I'm looking for him, you know, just playing. And I said that before. I don't have anything to lose. If he come up and beat me, for example, 13-0 or something like that, it's the start of my career, so I don't have anything to lose. At least I don't fear of him, so...
Very good.
Well, we don't know how much practice Ronnie's doing at the moment, because he wasn't very well. He said he was going to go and sit on his sofa and get better.
Yeah, he find an excuse for himself, you know what I mean? He's always been like that 30 years. I'm doing all right, mate, all right.
Oh, wowzers, this is going to be tasty come Friday. I can't wait.
Hello, mate. It's Jamie.
So there we go. Hossein Vafaei. That is pretty out there, Shabnam. That is calling Ronnie out in a big way. I'd be careful if I was him, to be honest.
Yeah, some have said that he's poking the bear. So I think we better get our popcorn ready. I think that's what people are going to be doing, because we just can't wait to see what's going to happen when these two actually meet. Will there be a handshake? Will they play the game in the way that it's meant to be played? You know, will there be niggle? Oh, it's just really exciting, really. I think it's got all of us quite excited about it, to be honest, and beyond. And it was the big story before the protesters came and did what they did last night. So, yeah, but that's on Friday, and something that everybody is very much looking forward to, I think. We all love a good beef, don't we, in sport?
Yeah, especially when it's one-on-one. So that's Friday, 2 o'clock, best of 25 frames. And when Vafaei says that he felt disrespected by O'Sullivan in Germany and that he felt O'Sullivan was just knocking balls around, did he have the kernel of a point there? Was he being a touch paranoid? Truth somewhere in between?
I think, you know, obviously, if he felt like that, he felt like that. He was out there, he was playing the game. And other players have said similar things about O'Sullivan at times. Mark Selby has said a very similar thing about O'Sullivan. There are times when, you know, he's a little bit frustrated or he just wants to get on with things. And he lost that match to Hossein Vafaei at that point. So maybe he was a little bit frustrated and doing that and wanting to just sort of get out of there. But again, yeah, it's down to the players. If they claim they feel like that, then I suppose you've got to believe them.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, naturally enough, was asked for his response to Hossein Vafaei. Here's what Ronnie had to say.
Hossein Vafaei, the man that said what did he say about me? I can't remember.
I think he said you should retire or something like that.
Yeah. Has he been said much this year? Is he piped up or has he kept quiet? No, I think he's learnt to be quiet. Don't rattle my cage.
Does that mean that if it is you?
I'm just having fun. I'm just listen, like, you know, I love it when they call me out. I love it when they give me stick. I just love it. It's like, you know, it just sort of turns me on. So I get off on it. You know, I need something to fire me up. So I'm hoping someone says something and I hope I get better. I can just sort of have a reason to perform, I suppose.
The Michael Jordan effect, basically.
But they're not going to say it now, are they? I think they'll probably just realise it's not a good tactic to play. So we'll see. But we'll have some fun.
So that's O'Sullivan. Shabnam, would you have an insight into general attitudes towards O'Sullivan on the tour? Because there's obviously Vafaei here, and I was listening to Sean Murphy was on Irish radio talking about a whole range of issues during last summer, I think it was now. And O'Sullivan, as he invariably does with any snooker player, was brought up, and he was withering of O'Sullivan and was highly critical of the way O'Sullivan talks down the sport in Murphy's view and talks down other players. I mean, the contempt was thinly veiled, to say the least. And that was just, one example of Sean Murphy. What's your general sense of other players when it comes to O'Sullivan at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for any of them, but as you say, there are those that have come out and made it quite clear how they feel about it. And Sean Murphy is one of those. There are some out there, especially some of the younger players, who are just so in awe of him. And I think generally people are very much in awe of him because he is a genius on the table, but off the table, he can be very controversial, and he says what he thinks as well quite a lot of the time, and can be very critical. He has been over the years. He's had a number of fines and slaps on the wrist for things like that. But the recent comments that he made about the state of the game in general were very, very strong comments, because he criticised organisers, he criticised people who were in charge of the game. He said there wasn't enough prize money. There was lots of things said. He said that players were being silenced, even though he hasn't actually been to any of those meetings himself. And that's the point that Sean Murphy was making, because Sean Murphy is I think he's sort of an appointed ambassador of the game. All he wants to do is spread positivity about snooker. And I think it really, really gets to him that there's somebody who is, he's the face of the game, really, and has been for so long, because he's such a superstar. And Murphy just gets really frustrated that he doesn't want to promote the game in a positive way in general. I think players are allowed to say what they feel because it's their experience. So, and there's plenty out there who do, and there's some that don't, and there's some that come to the meetings and others that don't. I think there's a mix of opinions out there about it.
Ronnie's comments that you reference on the eve of the tournament, in effect, as you say, he was critical of the money involved. He was basically saying, to paraphrase, it's rubbish. I look at the money for golf tournaments, for tennis tournaments, and we're turning up week in, week out for checks of 70, 80k. And he said players are too quick to turn up, that they should actually demand more, and in effect they're happy to take crumbs. So you mentioned that Ronnie doesn't turn up for a lot of these events, and he's not obliged to, clearly.
No, he's not. He can because of the position that he's in. He's the world number one. And so he can pick and choose, can't he, the tournaments that he wants to come in. And there's certain, things that he has to do. And if he doesn't do them, certain places he has to turn up for, certain media commitments. And if he doesn't fulfill them, then he'll be fined. But yeah, in general, for him, it's very different. There's such different, positions in this game, such different levels. And when you're at the bottom, it's very, very different to when you're at the top.
He is on the point of doing something extraordinary. This is his 31st appearance at the tournament. He's 47 years of age now, so he's breaking Steve Davis's tally of 30 appearances at this tournament. And as I mentioned, he's level with Hendry on 7 world titles. This is his chance to take number 8. Perhaps the answer to this changes from one O'Sullivan interview to another, Shabnam. How important is it for him to get to number 8, to beat Hendry's record, to set it almost in factual stone that he is the GOAT, as opposed to people who, and they've been saying it for a number of years, whether he beats it or not, he is the best of all time. But this, I suppose, would settle the argument. Is that important to him? What does he say about that milestone?
Sorry, would you just repeat the last bit of that question?
Yeah, is that important to O'Sullivan? What does he say about reaching that milestone?
I think it is important to him because, he talks about people like Tiger Woods and Roger Federer all the time, who are the GOATs of their game. And I think he believes that he's in that category as well. And, the only way he's going to be remembered as that for forever is if he is the outright record holder at this tournament, the World Championship. And despite saying he doesn't care about this, he doesn't care about that, and acting, quite aloof about this sort of thing, he has admitted that he does that often because it's a way to cope with the pressure of what he does. But I think we saw last year when he equaled Stephen Hendry's record of 7 titles that he showed quite a lot of emotion, and he's never really done that often in his career, but he did. And that, I think, shows just how much it meant to him. So I think winning an 8th one would definitely mean a lot to him.
What's his form like coming into this tournament? And is it one of the younger types that's more likely to beat him, or one of the more established players?
Yeah, he hasn't won a ranking event this year, actually. He's won 2 invitational events, but, he's still winning things. He's still the number one. He's the defending champion. And I think any tournament he enters, he's always named as one of the favourites, if not the favourite. And this tournament, I think, generally, you can't really look past a seed for winning it, because the last time a qualifier won it was Sean Murphy back in 2005, and only 2 have done it in the modern era. So it's hard to look past those top established players, I think, who are going to challenge him. And it's going to be, your John Higgins, your Mark Selby's, your Sean Murphy's. You could have Mark Allen in the mix because he's had such an amazing season. He's been player of the season, winning those 3 ranking tournaments, as best he's ever done in this game. And he's coming into it more confident than ever. However, he doesn't have a great record here at the Crucible. He's never been past the semi-finals, and that was only once. So if you're going to say somebody new who could challenge him and get their name on the trophy, it could be Mark Allen. But it's very difficult, I think, to say I wouldn't put my money on a qualifier doing it. It'd have to be one of those big established players.
And to your eye, Shabnam, is O'Sullivan as good as ever? Is he maybe a touch on the wane, but such is the gap with him and the others that he's still the favourite? Is it a case if he plays his best, nobody can touch him? Like, give us a sense really of his standard, where it is in 2023 versus the rest.
It's actually amazing, but I think he's in as good form as he's ever been.
Okay.
I think he can be. It's like you say, when he comes and he's in the right frame of mind and he plays, the way he can, he's such a natural talent that he can be unplayable and nobody can beat him. But he's not unbeatable. And it just depends on the day. He's still a human being and he's affected by many things. It just depends on, we often say it's what Ronnie turns up on the day.
Yeah. Do you think he's in a good place mentally?
Yeah, I think he is. He said he's in such a good routine in his life. I think he sort of just gets up, walks the dogs, goes to the gym, eats well, as he always does. Priority is his health. So yeah, I think he's in a great place in life in general, because if he stays in that routine, it's good for him. He seemed very relaxed, actually, when we've seen him here. He seemed quite relaxed in his first round match and on the media day before he started the tournament. And I think he's always very dangerous when he looks relaxed.
There are parallels with Vafaei, the youngster, sticking it up to the established O'Sullivan. Just doing a bit of reading ahead of talking to you, I was reminded of Ronnie's comments in 2002, so we're going back a bit, semi-final against Stephen Hendry. This is apropos of nothing, by the way, but I just think it's funny. So what Ronnie O'Sullivan said at this match against Hendry was, I'm going to send him home to his sad little life back in Scotland. I'm going to give him a good old dusting.
Which his words, does he?
No, and he didn't, actually. He lost, so there you go. One other quick point, the backdrop to the tournament at the moment, there is this match fixing investigation in the background. 10 Chinese players currently suspended. Was I reading, Shabnam, the investigation, the independent investigation into this situation, this is going to be launched somewhere over the next couple of days, midway through this tournament. It will take about a month. That's where we are on that front.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's all I know as well. It starts on the 24th of this month, and it will start and it will continue. And we're not actually going to hear anything until I think it'll be a couple of months before we hear anything. So yeah, I think at the moment everybody is just sort of concentrating on this tournament. That will be happening, of course, in the background, but it's all about this tournament. We're not going to hear anything, or there'll be nothing to report for a few months until it's actually all done. Okay, well, we are out of time ourselves. Shabnam, Younus-Jewell of the BBC, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the tournament, Shabnam. Thank you. I hope you enjoy watching it.